Polarity by The Wedding. It's got this cool upside down, you can do the white cover or the black cover. This is The Wedding's sophomore album, and it starts off with a song called The Call, which is a little bit of like some horns and brassy, jazzy little build-up for what establishes this album as a little bit of like a call to arms, because the themes in this album are really about spiritual warfare, traditionally masculine and militaristic themes of honor and loyalty, respect, battle, war, and love. As I said earlier, the first track is called The Call, and it is a call to arms because the first song, Say Your Prayers, is really a song written from the perspective of God that is saying a battlefield equivalent of love me with all your heart, soul, and might. Chorus saying, if you love me, then just love me. Don't you give me pretty words. Lay your life down at the altar. Let me see how serious you are. And that is the MO of the album. It's all about spiritual warfare and about taking your faith seriously. As you see, there is a lightning bolt now in the logo because this album is electrified. The last album was emo and pop punk mixed, as I said in our previous video about the self-titled album. This album is just a supercharge, and what it really begins to establish is something that made The Wedding unique to me, which is that real Southern influence, and not just the themes, which I do think is super prevalent here. There's a lot of Southern hospitality, good old boy type of things in this music, but also in the sound. And what you have is clean, bass-heavy, bouncy riffs that really come to establish this, as I described it before, rowdy rock. Additionally, we get to see something that The Wedding would really start to incorporate more to great use, which is hard dynamic shifts. Now, if you look at the inside of this part of the album, what it says here is polarity, the definition of polarity. The presence or manifestation of two opposite or contrasting principles or tendencies. Now, there is no self-titled track for this album. There's no track called Polarity, but what there is a track called Schizophrenia. And that is referring back to the phenomenon that Paul talked about, where your flesh desires to do one thing, but your spirit desires to do another thing. And those are at conflict in our mortal bodies. Think Petra's Jekyll and Hyde, obviously the reference from the actual scripture. That's what we're going for here, and that's kind of the theme of the album. Mixed in with the spiritual warfare metaphors are the ideas that there are people falling all around us, and using military metaphors and analogy, they try to keep each other in check as honest, good soldiers for Christ. Along with the whole soldier theme, you also have songs that are essentially about some kind of romantic love, or the loss thereof. It's still an emo album in some respects. Speaking of the South, and on tracks like the final track, Fireworks, you get to see a lot more of that influence directly. There's fiddles, there's a choir of ladies, including the lead singer's wife, who gets to play a part in that song. And then finally, if you have the album version, I don't believe this is available on streaming versions, though you can look it up on YouTube. There is a bonus track where they sing about being from Arkansas, the diamond of the South. As I mentioned in the last video, I've been there. It's a really cool and very beautiful part of the country. Also a little bit what people would consider redneck, and they really lean into it for this kind of jokey, goofy final song, bonus song.
Oh, Arkansas, the diamond of the South.
All in all, this is a very solid album. This is probably one of the albums I've listened to the most in my lifetime. With the themes and the messages and the music they try to encourage, they bring up things that are convicting, and also musically, they just rock. Like I said, it's real rowdy and loud. They amp it up from the last one, and ultimately this is a stepping stone to where they would continue to go in the next album, EP and album, with the new lead singer that comes next time, Matt Shelton. This was Kevin Keen's last outing as the lead singer. And I was really sad after this album ended and I found out that he had left the band. And I didn't know what to expect the next time around. I'm actually not going to give my thoughts on that. I mean, you could probably intuit them. But we'll talk about that next time. Meanwhile, Polarity is awesome and I love it. And I feel like I've already got my main points across. What would I give it? Well, me personally, I just really, really, really like this music. It's it's in a genre that existed before, but they bring a little bit more of that Southern influence in it to make it a different kind of feel. And that's why I would probably personally give this a 4.5. They made a lot of improvements over the last one. They brought a lot of new things in. They mixed it up instrumentally. The themes are way more cohesive, and it just rocks. 4.5.